I'll call this meeting to order. First up, I'll just ask for a second to approve our minutes from last time. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right. Welcome, everyone. We have a bit on the agenda tonight, so I will keep it moving best I can. But just we'll start with the updates. First off, we had a meeting about the affordable housing with Ann Goby, with Patrick White, and I think who else was on that call? Eric was on. So Eric, please, if I forget anything important.
G-O-B-E?
G-O-B-I, I believe. And we talked about affordable housing and hopefully that they could look into how we can help farmers and farm labor find housing in Stockbridge and writ large the Berkshires. So I thought it went really well. It was pretty quick. Was there anything else you gleaned from it, Eric? Anne seemed like she was going to go back and try to investigate more, and that maybe we'd hear in the future what they could figure out with MDAR and other state entities.
What's MDAR?
Massachusetts Department of Agriculture.
Yeah, the one thing we discussed was a lot of the land has APRs on them, and MDAR doesn't generally approve any building on any of the agricultural land, even though there's the ability to do that. And that's one of the things we wanted her to look at.
And where does she come from? Who is she?
She is, if I remember correctly, appointed, a new position appointed by the governor for rural affairs. So she was a state senator, I believe, and now she's working directly under the governor. But I can get the official title.
Okay, that's good. Thank you.
But I think for the most part, we talked about the APRs, we talked about housing, and I think at some point we'll try to follow up with her, and maybe Patrick can get in touch because he was the liaison to that. Moving on, just another update, composting. So since we last met, me and Abigail were able to go down and actually talk to Mark at the transfer station. He was still very enthused about composting. He already had some thoughts, which I won't get into now, because he still wants to bring it up to the select board and present it with a little bit more research. But he also,
Go ahead.
Sorry. Also was able to make up just a general interest sheet that I put down there with people can sign, whoever is interested in composting in the town of Stockbridge. And the last time I looked, it was about 2 weeks ago. We were up to probably, I think, we had to fill the whole page. So it was about 40 plus signatures.
So where's the sheet?
The sheet is in right on the wall of the swap shop.
Ah, okay.
And there's a little chalkboard outside pointing to it if you're interested in. I tried to make it very clear that people who signed it were not signing up for composting yet.
Just their interest.
Just their interest. So, we'll see how long he said leave it up for about a month. But he had already said he had filled a page or two. So we will continue that discussion and the affordable housing more in coming meetings.
So did you want to see the setup in Stockbridge, in Sheffield?
I do.
Okay.
It's just finding a Saturday that would work, I think is the.
Okay, so let me know, because I would like to see it too. And I'm in Sheffield on Saturdays,
Okay.
so the Saturday afternoon would work. The woman from Tommy's actually came to Riggs because we're still setting it up there, and I told her, she's very enthusiastic.
Awesome.
And so she's a good resource.
And I think when we have our discussion on it, we can invite them, and maybe when Mark's ready, we get Mark.
Talked to him just before the new year
Yeah,
and I invited him. I said, if you can make it, that's great. He said, it's my day off, we'll see. So,
Fair enough.
fair enough,
see, yeah.
fair enough. All right, finally, last update, we'll get from Stuart on the farmer's market, which I also shared earlier today, just a page that Stuart wrote up, about what you've done so far.
Did everybody get a chance to read that?
Yeah.
Okay, so does anybody have any questions about what's in that little short report? Okay, so I have a question just for my own clarity. Because I'm coming from the place of the farmer's market is for the purpose of making sure that people in the town have good access to good food. Is there any other reason to have a farmer's market for 4 to 6 weeks in the summer, other than that reason of access to good food? Like, do you want more people to?
Supporting local farmers, be one.
Oh, okay. Right. So,
Brings people to,
Say that again?
What'd you say?
it brings people to downtown too.
Brings,
well, and is that an important factor really to bring people to downtown? Okay.
well, I think, it's kind of, since we are the Ag Commission, we're focused on farmers and supporting farmers and farmers supporting the communities.
Right.
But I think there is like the added bonus from other probably stakeholders that having a farmer's market at a certain time would attract people to their businesses preferably. Not saying that is our main intent for this commission, but I'm sure there's other people out there that would like to support that cause.
Okay, so the somewhat short list of people who said they would show up is still probably enough to do a farmer's market in the summer, just barely, but nonetheless is enough. And there is, of course, that big list of people who didn't respond one way or the other. And I can start going back to those people and trying to see if they want to say yes or no. I'm thinking most of them are probably going to be a no, simply because they never said yes.
Right.
And so if you think that short list is enough, which it could be.
Well, I guess my biggest question, and I think this is, I don't want to get too far down the discussion path.
Okay.
But just how the tentative anchor farmer feel about it. Now that's my biggest question. Like we've been saying, we want to have a good anchor for everyone else to base it around. But I mean, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 so far.
Always have that many?
And I thought we wanted to start small.
We wanted to.
Okay, well, there you go.
And so I think what we'll do too is, because this write-up's great, because also it goes into, I think, like you point out, I think the biggest thing will be the SNAP and HIP applications for the town.
Yeah, I'm gonna start investigating more exactly what the town needs to do. I've done some of that, but I didn't want to go too far. I believe that, I don't think it's something that I can do. I think some official town person, more like probably the town administrator, has to actually be the one that would make the application. But I'll find all that out. Yeah.
Gotcha. And then your work too with the Heaton Court, and identifying Pine Woods as another potential distribution point.
Yeah, and all I'm really doing with that is essentially providing education to them. Kathy Wiggins was not really aware that this was a possibility. So now she is. I believe that she's going to do all the legwork as far as I know. I told her I could offer advice to her if she needed any, but I think she's just going to contact Berkshire Bounty directly and take it from there. I don't know, like I said, I don't know if they have the capacity or not. But if they do, then that'll happen. And if not, we can talk about that more at the next meeting.
Gotcha.
Because there may be a few things the town could do to help make that more likely to happen, but we don't need to discuss that tonight.
Gotcha.
So last year, it seemed like we started too late to get anything going. Are we on track this year if we?
Yeah, we would still be okay if, what we should be doing is at the February meeting, should really just make a decision at that point, I think.
Yeah,
The USDA did say about 2 months for the process of getting approved to process SNAP payments. I'm figuring it wouldn't be bad to give more time in case something's not right. So yeah, the February meeting is still plenty of time, really. Because we're talking about a market that would start in July.
It'd be late, yeah.
Yeah, well, isn't that like mid-July to end of August, or July 4th to middle of August, or something like that?
Yeah.
Somewhere in there.
So then I think just for own sake, then in February, if we can, we'll put it on as a discussion. We'll figure out what we need to do for application. Maybe someone else has gotten back to you by then, and we'll talk to about, we'll go over Heaton Court and everything else.
Yeah, by the February meeting, I will know exactly what the town has to do to get approved for SNAP.
That's great.
I don't think it's that complicated. It just involves people that, other than me.
Yeah. And then we can also, have some time to actually look over and do some thinking too about the farmer's market and what else we need to do to support it and get it ready. Okay, all right.
I got one thing. I don't see an anchor farmer here on your list.
The abode,
yeah, the first one.
Let me bring it back up again. Oh, that was, okay.
So in that, if we talk in
Where are
February.
they located?
okay, so the abode is located in New Lebanon, New York. They've been a long time anchor at the Pittsfield Farmers Market, and they've also been in the Great Barrington Farmers Market some. They are in fact a major producer of food in this area, and from my point of view, they'd be a very, very good one to have because all their food is organic, which is a big issue for me. It's bringing organic food, good food to people, not just food.
The specialty food items for the Floodgate Farm? What kind?
Yeah, I met them in person at the West Stockbridge Market, and I kind of forget exactly what they had, but I will go back to them and ask them what would they be bringing to a market. They're definitely, they didn't have too much regular produce. And so I was a little vague there because I talked to them months ago and I just don't quite remember what exactly, but it looked like good stuff. It was locally produced. It wasn't, and it was not craft stuff. It was,
Right.
so I'll be able to answer your question completely in February.
Cool. Good. All right. So we'll look forward to that discussion. We'll hammer some stuff out then.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Thank you very much.
Sure.
All right. And now to the main event. All right. All right, we'll move on to discussions. Actually, so you're first on the list if you want to hop up. I'll invite up you and you can introduce yourselves. You might need to notice, yeah, there you go. Thank you, Stuart.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
I'm Amanda Barsonis.
I'm Alberto Barcenas.
Welcome.
Thank you.
And for context, you want to tell us what you do, what you want to do, and your relationship to Stockbridge.
Sure. So we own Prado de Lana Sheep Farm. We have our sheep at Namkeg right now, and we also just purchased property up on Rattlesnake Mountain this last summer and have some of our sheep there as well. We also own the yarn shop in town. And so what we're wanting to do is be able to start building on our property on Rattlesnake Mountain and getting our farm going.
Awesome.
And moving a farm store up there as well, so it can be an all-inclusive sheep and shop thing. We live in Stockbridge as well, on Prospect Hill, and we'll eventually build a home on our farm as well.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Nice.
Awesome. So do you want to share like your plans, your vision, your dreams, your in particular, or I'll let you, however you want to take it. Whatever you plan for.
So we are wanting to put in a solid perimeter fence, because that will help one with predators. It's just easier to manage and without having to use like electric netting fencing all the time. And then we need to put in a well, an electric,
Yeah.
A barn.
and a barn for sure.
So we want to get the infrastructure for the animals first before like the house will come
Right.
later, last.
Yeah.
We really want to get going on the barn, so the animals can have that for the winter and also for all the operation in general, all the things that we need to use it for. And then attached to the barn would be like a farm store. That's
Yeah. Great.
that's the initial phase.
Yeah.
We've been working a lot on clearing a lot of the land because there's a lot of invasive species that are growing at the moment.
The buckthorn.
A lot of buckthorn, a lot of just scrubby kind of stuff that is not,
So you're making it better.
improving the pastures. We have talked with,
We started a company that is working here in the Berkshires to help us with reestablish new pasture land, like new grass land for the sheep and in general for the property, because it's almost wanting to take over. Like the forest, the buckthorn forest is creeping in pretty quickly. We've seen it. You know, there's about 6 open acres that are just start a lot of saplings of buckthorn. So we want to stop that, and also we want to expand our pasture land too, because so we can have the operation that we have. And if we, you know, along with the Namkek property in our property, we should be able to have enough pasture for our sheep. And we also want to explore more like the meat, meat market. We haven't been able to. We've been farming other farms or properties in Turningham and West Stockbridge. Now that we can have our own infrastructure and the property, then we can explore finding ways to not only the wool, the fiber producing, but also, like I said, the meat and all other products, maybe bring chickens and all the to start, creating that farm that we've been wanting to have now that we have for the property.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
and this is not related to this commission, but are there wetlands anywhere near?
there's an intermittent stream that is there. And there is an old farmer's pond.
So
That
just
wasn't
be sure
named.
to come to the Concom.
Yeah.
Yes, we're planning, I think, to come and talk to them tomorrow. I think they meet.
Are you on the agenda?
We
No.
are not.
You should be on the agenda, because
Yeah.
I know tomorrow's a busy.
Oh, it's a
should be
busy,
busy to get
yeah.
on the
So,
agenda.
okay, we need to get on the agenda then.
Yeah. Email Sally,
Okay.
Okay.
because even fencing can sometimes be an issue depending on how close it is to.
To the wetlands. Okay, yeah, that's a good observation. Yeah, we've been thinking about, how we can make this work with the well, which we knew that there are
Yeah.
some wetlands around there.
Is any of it protected land or APRs or anything? It's just,
It's 16 acres almost 16 acres, and is, about those are, I don't know, 7 are open, maybe a little more.
gotcha.
The main thing is to have, well, one of the main things to have that infrastructure that, especially for the winter we can have. But if we have to pasture the animals, it's still in Namkek, and some other, I think, neighbors have offered other pasture land.
How many do you have?
At the moment, we have around 60-ish.
Nice.
So, yeah.
Yeah, we've been farming for almost,
Well, and the barn is
10
not
years.
just only shelter for the winter. It's also would be used for lambing in the
Lambing, yes.
springtime, storing
the wool.
wool when we're shearing, things like that, a place for shearing.
Hay storage.
Yeah. So,
So you have it all in one place?
for the most part, yeah.
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 Nice.
And it makes it easy.
Yeah.
So,
Well, especially hay in the winter time, I know it takes up a lot of space and keeping it nice and then once you do share, having a nice dry place to put all that wool so it doesn't.
Yeah, we do have a concept plan that Forestry Land help us to create. I don't know if you can, let me see if we can find it here. This is kind of, we also want to present to conservation. Because the barn, the concept that where the barn will go, it will be in the buffer zone of the wetlands. Which people build, the ball has many houses in the buffer zone.
We'll talk.
So we'll see I don't know, we'll see what happens with that here.
Yeah.
This one. Did you bring?
Patrick, did you have?
I just had a question.
Yeah.
What is the, where the parcel abuts the Mass Pike? Are you gonna keep in place, brush or trees just for noise for the neighborhood?
Oh, yeah, I don't think we would not be able to remove everything. One, because of the wetlands.
yeah, it's very swampy back there, so it's not really usable for us in that way. So, and yeah, we would
That was
want
a question I got from a couple of your neighbors, and I think, of course, this seems like a reasonable answer, I just figured I'd throw it out there.
yeah,
Yes, no, we would not be able to go that far. Neither we really want to go that far.
no,
Sometimes it provides a sound barrier.
Yes.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, and it's ironic, the other sheep farm that I work with, right on the turnpike, and they've been managing the stand of trees there for the last 50 years to keep the sound down and has
Right.
kept and keeps planting pines. So it's actually, it was kind of a blessing that they stayed there because, for all the neighbors, they ended up getting someone to manage their wind blind there.
Yes. Sorry, I thought I had that printed. So. But we can email that to you so you kind of have an idea.
Yeah.
And it stays in the record. So.
Well, and I think, too, for us, it's mostly we want to find ways to support and help and let agricultural businesses succeed in the best way we can. Obviously, we're not regulatory. We don't have a budget. I think maybe we have $1 for a pencil, but so it's mostly, it's good to know that these operations are happening around here, because I think a lot of people think of it as a place where there's $1 million cottages and not actual farming happening,
right,
around town.
Yeah, so the way that the lot is shaped, the frontage is on Rattlesnake.
Yeah.
And then that strip is where we kind of want to build. but the barn will be on the farthest edge of the buffer zone, so we're almost out of the buffer zone. And then we also have a right of way through the neighbor's property that to enter the backside of the property. So we'll be utilizing the frontage and then all the backside of the property.
And I think too,
This email can just say.
Eric, you sent a really good passage too that, a while back when this originally got brought up too, just about auxiliary dwellings and stuff like that before the main dwelling. But you found, what was it? Section 1, Section 40A, Section 3 of the Massachusetts General Law, to just talking about agricultural businesses and what they can and can't do. And I think too, it applied to really, I feel like to your case in terms of having a barn before your dwelling.
The primary dwelling.
Because that's, you're not building just any old garage
Right.
just to store all your cars.
Initially, when I had stopped by the inspector's office, he wasn't there, but that was the initial reaction that we couldn't have that. And then as we investigated and the other research that was done, that it seems like we should be able, besides we need to talk to conservation, I guess.
Excuse me, do you have your plans in place for the design of the barn and when you would like to start?
We have like a preliminary kind of design, but we don't have
The barn design.
kind of like a layout of where we would want to locate it on the land, but we don't have an actual barn design yet. That's something that we're working on. And obviously, I mean, we would like to be able to do it as soon as possible, but that also requires monies that we need to like figure out what our budget is and the cost of how much a barn and would cost and everything like that. So
Yeah, the only concept that we have is the location, the possible location of the barn on the plan, and the footprints of the footprints of the barn and the possible house and all that. That's what I was trying to get here.
And the other thing you want to check is that there's no endangered species on there. I don't know if you've looked at that map or had natural heritage check, because I know some places on rattlesnake
Have had
have endangered species, and then that would restrict
yes, even
some.
more.
So that's just another thing too.
I don't think that we do, but I'm not 100%
Yeah,
sure.
we have. I know we have a bog, a campus, which is the far east west side of the property, and closer to the highway, which we are aware of that, and also we'll be obviously be mindful of that.
And two, I mean, just in the realm of financing, I don't know if you've looked into the food security infrastructure grant program. I think it's still open for 2024, but they have max rewards up to $500,000 and it's distributed through the state. I've known a few farms to have gone through it and done improvements on existing infrastructure or / completely brand new infrastructure. And it covers anything from, stainless steel tables, shelving, all the way up to vehicles, tractors, roads, hard roads. It is a hefty report back. There's a lot of paperwork. But I don't know, it would be worthy because I know that it's kind of one of those, if they have money, they keep putting it on.
Sure.
And a smaller, off the top of the head reward, there's the Farmers Award through the Grinspoon application process. It's another just $2,500 award for farmers in the Berkshires, which is not going to buy a barn, but you know,
The fence or.
yeah, it might be a panel of the fence. Panel of the fence, you know. And I think that's one thing. I think one thing maybe that off the top of my head, we could have a running list here at the Ag Commission to just point people to places. Yeah,
That would be great.
yeah.
Yeah,
There's
a
so
lot-
many.
There's so many, and it can be a full-time job to
Yep.
just apply for one of the grants.
Yeah, the infrastructure, definitely it was a full-time plus 2 hires type job.
Yes.
Yeah, I think the more we can support farmers and achieving them, that would be probably a good thing for us to.
Will you expand the store out there?
Yeah, I think I would move this, the goal is to move the store from downtown to the farm.
Right, but would it be bigger?
Yes.
Yeah, a little bit bigger so that we can have workshops. I would love to have like an educational component too, for the community.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's,
And kids to visit the farm, because we get a lot of this in the store in town that,
Yeah.
hey, can we
People
visit
wanting
the
to
farm?
visit.
Where is the farm? I say, well, it's in Turningham, it's here. I say, but now it's in
Have
the
it all
same
there.
town, and people really want to see the animals and where
Yeah,
the products are coming from. It'll be a nice addition to
that'd be huge.
the town.
I'm there. Yeah, good.
We'll get you the email. I can send you
Yeah.
this, so you have it in that kind. It's just a concept of the footprint of the possible locations of the.
And like, I think like
You're comfortable.
you will, yeah, I can share. And, like you're saying, I think, the COMCOM would be the place to dive into the nitty gritty of each thing.
Yeah.
And obviously, whatever we can do to support, but.
Thank you.
Is there any other concerns you have or questions you had for us?
no, not really. I don't think so.
I have just one thing.
Yes.
Alberto, you've met my wife, the woman with the walking stick.
Yes, I have. Yes.
I've met her also.
That my wife, Amanda, she met.
I'm on the board of Berkshire Agriculture Ventures and I'm on their loan committee. I'd like to put you in touch with some of our staff because we also write grants for farmers.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, you actually, yes. I have contact. We know Dan.
Oh, okay, good.
We know Dan, and we have actually emailed some people from the office, but this was before we purchased the land. So we definitely like to reach out to them now that we do have the land to see what we can do or they can do for
You
us.
should, because I think we could probably be of some assistance.
Yes,
That
that
would
would
be
be really great. Yes.
Awesome. Good, so we'll make sure we get in touch and hopefully you'll have Dan's contact already. And we're here every first of the Monday, so if anything.
Thank you.
Please just reach out and we'll get you back on the agenda and, especially as the project moves forward too, be good to hear
Yeah.
how it's going.
Updates.
Updates.
Yeah, we'd really like
sure.
to get this going as soon as the weather let us.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
And who do they contact for,
Sally.
Yeah, contact Sally and get on the agenda.
Okay.
And
Yeah,
it won't be tomorrow night, you won't be on
Right.
tomorrow night's
Yeah.
agenda, but it'd be
next 2 weeks, right?
second and fourth
Yeah.
Tuesday, yeah.
Okay.
So if you email her, you should be able to get on the next agenda.
Okay.
And the more specific plans you can bring, I mean, we would want to do a site visit and go look at it and see where the wetland is. And
Yeah.
all of that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Good. Great.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming and
Thank you.
presenting this and doing the hard work. All right, next up on the hot seat, Patrick. Rotating cast people.
How are you guys? Cool crowd.
It's going good, actually.
Good?
Yes.
Yeah.
And now it's
Have a good night.
break time.
What are you, like a grad student by now? You probably-
No.
Like, are you teaching?
I'm only a junior.
Oh, come on.
It goes fast.
Yep.
Goes fast.
You teach all those PhD students, I'm sure. Anyways,
All right, so Patrick, you're here. You got in touch about enforcement of the forest stewardship plans.
yes.
You want to give more background because I did not share everything you said other than the request.
So I talked to Colin at the state forester for Berkshire County. Nice guy. And he has, access to both expired and current forest management plans. And I feel like, we get a lot of land turnover and sometimes they might be in conservation restrictions, they might be in forest management plans in chapter 61. And I feel like not all the time do people always know what permanent commitments have been made as part of, parcels and frankly, because there's tax benefits to those commitments, I think it's important that people respect and maintain them.
So that doesn't go with the deed?
It does, but just because you have a deed doesn't mean you understand what the deed says.
Right.
They may not be.
I'm giving them kind of the benefit of the doubt.
They may not be aware, but it does
Yeah.
Yeah,
go with
yeah.
the deed.
And I think, that without naming names, I think there was a parcel in town where there was some kind of conservation restriction enforcement action, or just at least conversation, around.
That wasn't
yeah.
passed on.
Yeah. And so, I just feel like, we can both help preserve our forests and help people, be both better stewards of their land and honor commitments that have been made by just understanding what the status of things are and then going forward, what responsibilities are. I also think that now with the 3 different types of forest management plans that people can embrace, that this sort of education is a really great way to encourage folks to consider it for their holdings, and we've had, you look at what the Burleys did up at Sky Farm and many other property owners have done to look at chapter 61 or permanent conservation restrictions. I think that we can keep to encourage that good behavior and also just make sure that, we're keeping them honest, so to speak. Yeah. So that was kind of there's not that many in place. I think there was only about a dozen from my recollection.
It says there's only 13
Yeah.
active.
That's right. So it's not like this, I think we could, I think it'd be great if I just want to point out too, that the chapter 61 offers both for farms and forests significant, tax savings, and so, it's a state level priority. It's not something that local decision makers have any impact on. You have the right to do this. And I think that it's good for the environment and good for the town and good for the state. I mean, it's protected millions of acres of, maybe not millions, hundreds of thousands of acres of forestry, that program over the years.
So who oversees it now? Who does that? Does DCR enforce it, or who?
I think that what you have is one one state forester for all of Western Massachusetts.
Yep.
And I think that, my sense talking to this guy Colin was, that we can partner and just sort of, I don't think that anybody's kind of,
There's not what.
I think it's basically more of a, there's one person and Berkshire County has, I don't know, I mean, it's many, many acres.
Yeah.
What is it? Stockbridge alone is what, 25 square miles? It's like, there's a lot of land there.
So I think too, it all makes sense to me to have someone paying attention, and especially, since we're not, the size of Texas here, it's 13 active currently active forest stewardship plans.
Right.
You know, creating a list of those properties and then having that as part of stored information between the COMCOM and us. And then when something does arise that someone, you know, I don't know if it means those property owners need to be reminded.
Yep.
I mean, I don't know how many are new to the land that they're on or anything like that, but
When things get subdivided, there's a lot of different
Right.
things that happen with property that you just, you know,
who are the stakeholders?
subdivisions by right, so you end up with like, you know, just,
Right.
you know,
Right.
and,
So that if I'm
yeah.
hearing correctly, there's not a designated person.
I don't believe there's somebody, I think that
All of
there's technically is, but I don't know that there's the capacity and bandwidth.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at all the problems in wetland enforcement in the county that we've heard of, and that's just a matter of, it's not a criticism of DEP,
No, I'm
it's
not
just,
criticizing.
you know, there's like only one or two people, you know, and there's been post-COVID hiring issues at the state level, you know, and I think the more that we can kind of be the eyes and, you know, the sort of second set of eyes is a good thing. You know, and I think that's a good segue into a conversation on, you know, community preservation has very limited, not limited, but very defined buckets where there can be money. There's an open space, there's housing, and there's historic preservation. And when you look at the open space bucket, there's an opportunity to, I believe, they're always let me preface by saying that proposals to community preservation are all vetted by the town, every single one, by town council, to make sure that we are following what is a very rigorous set of guidelines. But what we do have is approximately $10,000 a year in administrative funds where we have a little bit more flexibility. And I think that that one of the things that we might want to look at as a proposal for the administrative funds is to create GPS overlays for conservation restrictions, for Chapter 61, break it down to farms versus forests, and even for tree by tree GPS, or at least an area specific GPS monitoring where we might do plantings. So if I don't know if any of you saw it, but when we did the Ice Glen project a couple of years ago, I worked with, I got the data. So the guy Ken Gooch, who did the forestry work, actually brought out the Garmin GPS, I think it's called Garmin, and mapped where every single one of those old growth trees was. It's like 400 total trees. I think it was like 350 hemlocks and around 50 the ash. And we actually have a GPS map where we can track the health of every one of those trees. And, you know, I think that the other part of a CPC discussion might be to really try to augment and expand efforts to plant on both town-owned and non-town-owned properties around species replacement. We know we lost most of the chestnuts. We know we lost most of the elms. We know we're going to lose a great deal of the ash if we haven't already. You've got problems and challenges around hemlocks and around beech and around just a number of different species. And as you see the die-offs of those species in the forest, you know, kind of looking at strategic plantings in the watershed around the water source at Lake Haverick, and elsewhere, you know, you know, we talked the other day about an ambitious goal of maybe, you know, trying to, when it comes to plantings, I actually had a meeting with Jeff Jourdain, who's our town forester, and he was explaining that, you know, a lot of things are related. For example, you know, regardless of what you think about hunting, the fact is that, you know, if deer population gets out of whack, then the deer are more inclined to eat the saplings. So, you know, if we're going to do plantings, they've been losing 60, 70, 80% of the plantings to deer. So, you know, what they've been trying to do is to cone, you know, put those sleeves over the trees for several years, but those can then be recycled. So getting into the initial plantings ramping up would be more expensive per tree, but then as the trees mature, you can recycle and believe me, I'm no forester. I'm just regurgitating what the experts have told me here, but you can recycle the tubes. Yeah, that's what they're called, cones, tubes, I don't know, the plastic gizmos. And we can actually pull those from one set of plantings to the next. But to do that, we need to know and be tracking where we've done the plantings. And that's where kind of that administrative money might come in to help us really take a year. Look at, if we go to CPC this year and the deadline is mid-February, that would mean that, a plan could be put in place in fiscal year 25, which starts July 1st. And so, but starting to think through kind of in an era of climate change with these invasive pests, with species die off, with the need to protect the watershed, I would love to just sort of like really kind of do a deep dive into all the ways that we can both use technology to track what our efforts are around Chapter 61, around conservation restrictions, around plantings, but also then actually take CPC money and facilitate those plantings and really try to ramp it up. One of the good news is with CPC, and then, sorry, kind of went on a long time here, is we were one of the first communities in the state to adopt CPC. So CPC is community preservation. And that's like where you can invest in a community. So if you own property in town, 3% of your tax dollars go toward community preservation. And then the state matches about a third of that number every year. So in Stockbridge, that works out to about $300,000 a year. This year, we have 1.1 million in CPC because after 20 years, if somebody applied for 20 grand and the project was only 15 grand, that 5,000 kind of sat in account for a long time. And so Erica, the treasurer, and Michael and I worked really hard to go through every single appropriation we've done over 20 years, and it turned out there was $800,000, and that it was higher. We already spent some of that last year, but right now there's still $800,000 in extra money in CPC from these old grants from prior years. So we have this once in a lifetime big giant pot of money in CPC. And I really think that open space initiatives are kind of an important way that we should, not all of it, and we don't have to spend all of it this year, but, really kind of thinking creatively about how we can, use it to advance open space in the era of climate change, I think is really important.
So can we go back?
Yeah.
To your first point about the conservation restrictions in the Chapter 61. My son works for Maine Farmland Trust, and his job is to do exactly what you're saying, to follow up on all the farmland conservation restrictions. And it takes a year to do that. I mean, it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
You have to go out to the farm, walk it, see what they're doing, see if they're doing what they said they would be doing.
Right.
There's a lot involved. Even if it's just 13, it's a lot of work to really do it. But I'm wondering is that something through CPC or maybe in conjunction with Stockbridge Land Trust? If they might be able to get involved?
I think
it's like a one-time
Accounting.
through CPC to have somebody go and do it. I mean, it's a lot for us with the Conservation Commission.
Well, and
to really do.
And I would suggest to you though is, everyone sees Stockbridge as this kind of elderly town. Abby here's the exception. Well, I guess you too.
Come on, I haven't grayed up yet.
But the fact is that that we have a couple hundred people between 18 and 30 who live here. Now, some of them are college or whatever. We have another 200 or 300, 400 between 30 and 40. And these are the sort of initiatives I really think a lot of people would be excited to volunteer on. People don't have to actually sit on the board to get involved in forestry and farm. And then you've got partners like Green Agers where they're always looking for summer projects. So looking at how we fund, initiatives like that, but also maybe this seems like a really great area where, look, I'm exactly the average age of the people in Stockbridge, so I would not position myself as, I'm not old or young, I guess. But there are a whole lot of folks who seem to have a lot of passion around this specific topic. And, yeah, let's make that part of the effort is try to recruit them to like get trained and learn.
Yeah, but it's a skill.
Well, and I think, well,
Skill.
yeah, to your point, the skill of it. So I think it's a great idea to have someone assess it. I don't know if it needs to be crowdsourced or like, I don't think it needs to be us.
Yeah.
We can barely do one hike, let alone, go find 13 properties and map it out. And so I think there's two conversations to be had is, would it be beneficial to see if a small portion of funds could be set aside to hire someone to survey and give us a report at the end of this next year, fiscal year, to go out and actually identify, to make sure, because I think you brought up in your email too, is that we want to make sure there people who are saying that there's dead trees they're chopping down. But no one's been there to verify whether whoever's saying it is, if they're generally dead or they're just saying they're dead. So I think it'd be good to assess, literally have someone be like, hey, we're going back through all of our plans. We're going to have someone going and assess this. And maybe this will be a broader conversation with the select board and the stakeholders to bring them and let them know that this is happening. And then the other discussion is, it'd be great to have all the data points. And I think it would be amazing to have GPS coordinates. So moving forward, we know where the buffer zones start for the wetlands. So the COMCON might be interested, but also where there are pockets of elms and ash and.
So remember, there was software that the town was thinking of purchasing, but then decided not to, that would do exactly what you're talking about, and that you could go out on a site visit, put in the notes, get the GPS coordinates, and we talked about sharing it, I don't know, it came to this commission. We talked about sharing it with Concom, the Land Trust, and this commission.
Yeah, let's look at, I think it's a great
So we might want to
idea.
look at it again, because it was really powerful, and I thought Michael had said we couldn't do it. It's not cheap.
But here's the thing, we're in budget season. It literally starts next week. I talked to Michael today about kind of ramping up for the budget. So you've got not only CPC funds, but you made the joke about how you got $1 for pencils. I think that number's $12, just so you know, there's been a convention. But in all seriousness, this is like, every budget decision goes to town meeting. It's not like I make it or you make it, but the people can get behind these good ideas. And so all it takes is a proposal.
Right.
So we'll find out from Rich Bradway, because I think he bought it for the Land Trust.
Okay.
I'll see what it is.
And I think
it's powerful.
And and I think if we find out, we can talk about next time. But I think we're not the only ones that are going to be interested in it.
Concom would.
Compound, and then also Camp Bog. I'm assuming that commission would be interested in.
Right. And then there's an opportunity to create, GPS overlays. Because, if you go to any GPS website, for example, you go to the assessor's page and it pulls up, ArcGIS, we can actually create overlays. There's mapping tools that will, show like kind of those various things. And I feel like,
Would CPC fund an actual position?
I don't know. I think that there's only a limited amount that goes into the administrative fund, and then the rest of it has to fit into the open space bucket somehow. And there's strict criteria. So, and I'm not a lawyer, so if we have a good idea and we have a proposal, Matt and I can talk to town council and we can get them to pre-vet ideas and help us structure them in a way that pass the muster. This isn't like an after the fact thing. We can talk to them anytime we want,
Well, so I think to kind of wrap it all up, first of all, does anyone have any other concerns? Not hearing anything. Maybe.
I guess I have one question. Who has the legal authority to enforce those restrictions? I know MDR has the APR program.
Concom does.
DCR, and DCR for the forest management
For
plans.
wetlands restriction, Concom does.
Yeah, but and I'm not suggesting increase. I think enforcement is and I don't know, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I don't think we should be the heavy hand of government here. I think that what we want to do is keep educating folks, know what's going on out there, work with them. I'd much rather have them understand before they cut down the trees not supposed to be cut down than after. You know what I mean? I just have information helps us kind of improve communication lines,
Yeah, and from the way I take it is more like you said, between the COMCOM and DCR, they're technically the enforcement, but if we get information that all of a sudden a forest stewardship plan is not being followed or something, it would be passed on to deal with whoever else. Because like you said, there is one forester for however many acres of forest there are in the Berkshires. And I feel like that sometimes when I'm walking around and like, why isn't there someone here watching this going on?
And most of the concern is that people aren't really supposed to change use. So, for example, you can't stump grind. Can't stump grind, period. Like if people are doing that, they're basically turning like forestry into lawn. So and Colin was actually really quite helpful at helping the common sense things that folks can do. I think that there's as much opportunity as around really kind of getting aggressively behind planting, and the town needs help. Look at, we only budget to plant 100, 200 trees a year. Yeah, maybe we could ramp that up to 300 or 400 on town property. And with the die-offs that we're getting, half the town gets this water from Lake Everett. This is not like just a kind of tree hugger exercise here. I mean, this is like basically, erosion, and the quality of that watershed on the side of a mountain, is really important that we keep the quality high, because,
Just one question. Doesn't they have an active forest management plan around the reservoir?
They do.
Yeah.
Jeff manages it.
Yeah, so I'm not sure that that's an issue.
Oh, I don't think it's an issue at all, no.
So where are you going to plant the trees?
But
Well,
That don't have to do with that.
Jess Toro had come and spoke with the Concom a while ago, and she said there's so much needed along the river.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of erosion. She said there's lots and lots of places that she could help us find to plant along the river.
And Jeff's take was that the number of trees we're planting in the watershed is a function of the budget. Look at the watershed is, some parts of it are owned by the town and some parts of it are owned by the Water and Sewer Commission. The Water and Sewer Commission is paid for by ratepayers. So it's not like he couldn't be planting more trees. It's just that he only has this fixed amount of budget that has kind of been carried over for the last 10 or 20 years as to how many he can do a year. And the cost to effectively plant those trees is higher if you're going to tube them. I've learned a new word today, than if you're not. And so augmenting a budget just for tubing could make those plantings a lot more effective, because he's telling me he's losing 60 or 70% of the trees now to deer. So I'm just suggesting that, maybe we could have a broader conversation between Water and Sewer and you guys and Jeff and the town and the budgeting process to kind of explore what these issues are. Because I sat down with Michael 3 or 4 weeks ago, Eric, and there's a lot we could do. Now, the other thing is, I don't care where we plant the trees. I don't care if the program to plant it, let's say we had a program to plant 1,000 trees a year. The first with CPC money, and initially with the buying of the tubes, that's going to be more expensive than otherwise. I don't care if we're planting them on nonprofit land. I don't care if we're planting them on town-owned land. I don't care where we're planting them. We're losing so many species right now that, these issues, I think, are really, really, top of mind in terms of kind of how, because it takes a couple of years to put in place programs, and the planet's not waiting here,
Well, so I think, there's a lot to think about, to wrap it up and sum up what next steps are. I feel like, Lisa, if you find out what the program is.
What the software is.
Software.
Yeah.
And also, I'm assuming the COMCOM might be interested. And then we can also talk about maybe putting a proposal for, which I think the layering, the overlay, for, you know,
Administrative funds.
the administrative funds, to see how far we can get. Because I mean, there is a lot of things that I think that will be coming down the line, especially getting back to Ice Glen at some point, and reevaluating that forest, system. That it would be useful to have the software and the overlays for future people to be able to see what it was at on 2025 or 2024, or whatever we end up getting.
So here's my question for you though. The CPC deadline is going to be a little over a month from now. All right. So you're going to have one meeting between when and it cannot go in a minute late. It's like, it's all regulated. So, you know, you're going to have basically mid-February, the deadline's going to come. You know, I'm happy to help work on this. I've written a number of CPC grant applications in the past. It's not that hard. It's 3 questions, a limit of 400 words a question. It's as grants go, it's about the easiest in the world, but it still has to be written. So, you know, is this something you want us to work on in the next month? Because there's not going to be any time to decide to do this in a month. Now, you don't have to put them in. And I will defer to you guys. You know, I think these are some really interesting ideas, but you do want some effort around getting some ideas together in a format that this body could, you know. So
the question raises for me is, do we want to put something together quickly, which is possible? Or do we want to, because there's so many ideas here, or do we want to give it really good thought?
And wait a year.
And wait a year and really put together something that's going to be.
All we're looking for now is funding.
Yeah.
We don't have to do basically it's like the broad brush, I believe, is okay when you're just basically saying, can you earmark the 5 or 10 or 20 grand for plantings or whatever, you know, or earmark some money for software. It's not like we have to know how we're going to do it.
That's all you're going to say.
Yeah, that's basically where I'm coming from.
Earmark for software or plantings,
Yeah.
then.
Yeah. You know, and I just also, I want to kind of.
But there's a lot of other ideas here,
Yeah, there are, I know.
which I think are really valuable and that we should think about. But if we could earmark for the software, I don't think it was $10,000. I think it was considerably less.
Yeah.
That would be.
I say let's have, for the next meeting, if everyone doesn't mind, we'll put together just for the overlays and the software.
2 CPC proposals?
Two. I don't think, unless they can correspond, I feel like they're 2 separate.
2 separate.
No, I think that the technology would be one.
So let's just have it ready, you know, me and you can talk.
Yeah. Okay.
Put together, because the overlays, you've already put more thought into it. And then at the next meeting, if it's all ready to go.
I'm also going to write up a draft, if you don't mind, around the plantings. I think the plantings getting started on that. And frankly, one of the reasons is just, we got this windfall, this huge windfall, and I just feel like, you know, there's a lot of competing interests, and this is one that at least is personally important.
Right.
So.
Well, and so if you do that,
Yeah.
I mean, I can't stop you.
Well, no,
I can't.
Please, yay.
Yeah. But, you know, I think, again, I agree, you know, with the tree planting and stuff, I think it's very hard from a holistic point of view, in my opinion, just because, you know, to Eric's point, where you plant them, you know, but also, you know, there's so many invasives, there's so many things, what to plant, which is a conversation we are currently well, all the natives are dying.
Not all.
But you know what I mean? It feels like that. So, and are we planting for the future or are we planting for the past? So I think, you know, that's why it's such a broader conversation that we keep continually having.
You don't need those specifics.
Right, you don't need those specifics.
have
In
time to
CPC
work
projects, you can get an appropriation and it can take 3 years to spend.
I hear you.
I mean, it's just not,
Yeah.
it's not like there's a time limit.
So
It's just a matter
get the
of.
money and then figure out.
We get the money, so we can talk about the overlays if you find out the software.
Yeah.
And then by next meeting, we'll have it all ready to go to look over and talk about if there's anything else, we'll put it in.
Good.
And just try to get the money.
Patrick, how much money are you going to ask for the plant the trees or the sleeves?
Well, Jeff told me that, and I fully admit I'm getting old, so this is the number, basically the first year number with the labor cost and the sleeves is either 25 or $50 a tree. And I've got notes on it. I meant to look it up before I came in, I forgot to. So, I was thinking that, that if he's got a budget now of doing something like 100 to 200 trees, and he's not gonna be able to ramp it up for this year anyway. So I think we should try to help him significantly augment the budget. And so I think you start with the first several years you need the sleeves, and then you start recycling the sleeves, which is where the administrative money for the software comes in. Because you got to remember where you put them all. If you start talking about planting, it wouldn't be an individual GPS, it'd be where he placed the stands. So you could then look it up in the hundreds and hundreds of acres we have in the watershed. And elsewhere. So, I was saying, to answer your question, though, I was thinking 25 grand.
And that's from CPC.
Yeah, from CPC. And literally it's money that gets, deployed.
Yeah, I have no problem with that. I'd support that.
Good.
All right.
Okay. How about 50? It's more than 25. What was that guy?
Anyway, well, that's great. I mean, I think this will be really cool if we can pull this off.
All right, cool, good.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My laptop stopped working, but from my memory, the final thing we have to do is talk about Arbor Day.
Okay.
And trees.
So
Ironically.
I think we wanted to do something similar to what we did before. I wanted to order because from what I hear, they go fast.
Yeah.
Do we know how many we'll have from?
So I was just emailing with her today, and she says she said she has some that have finally rooted. I don't
Okay.
know what that number
What some
is.
is?
I can ask her though, and I want to ask her the
Species? Okay.
But she said she was relieved that we'll also be ordering because I think the rooting is going slower.
Okay.
But it's happening.
So we'll take some.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, and just, to make her feel better too, I feel like the plants we had last year, the roots weren't completely rooted, because we had a delay and,
Yeah.
they were, so I don't want her to feel like she needs to have a full plant, like a full potted,
And then
bonsai.
I think I went and visited in November, and we were talking about how we could probably have the students work on the pamphlet, and I think she wants to do it as an assignment for them. She said she wouldn't take every student.
Yeah.
Just a select few that she thought would be super interested.
Great.
So, yeah.
So did people have a chance to look at what Matt sent out from Saratoga Tree Nurseries?
For 1 second.
I had it on my screen until,
I was hoping they had flowering dogwood, because everyone wanted flowering dogwood last time, but they don't.
no, yeah.
But I think it's $25 for 25, is that what it is? So I thought we could order 75 and supplement it with whatever we get from the high school.
How many did we do last
We
time?
did more, I think we did,
Did we do 150?
I think we did 150, we had a lot
Extra.
left over.
Oh, okay.
So I thought around 100 would be better, because then we had to find homes for all the ones we had left over.
Yeah, I mean, I think the ones I were thinking the most of was the hazelnut,
Yeah, I agree.
the black cherry. Those two piqued my interest just for purely wildlife.
Yep.
Yeah. Any others that people? Oh, and the walnut, the black walnut.
Or I was thinking witch hazel too, just because it's my favorite. So, okay, so I'll pick from there, and I'm gonna order this week, and Riggs will pick up the cost. We looked at the calendar and thought we'd do it on a Friday afternoon instead, if that works, or if that would work for you.
Maybe.
April said it would work for her students.
For Friday afternoon,
That Friday.
for Labor, for Arbor
Day.
Day is the 26th. So
that Friday?
plan that, and if it rains, we can get a tent. Hopefully it won't rain.
You know, one of the Arbor Day Foundation is sending out trees right now. They just got 10 trees in the, it's like the ground's frozen.
Yeah.
It's a weird, yeah.
You know, it was hard to order from them. When we did this last time, I got them like almost 4 weeks early,
Yeah.
and then we had to,
I literally got some of the last week. I'm like,
yeah, what are you gonna do with it? You can put it in some soil, I mean, you can put it in a pot, in some
Yeah.
soil, and then transplant it, but.
Heal them and just get some mulch and you just stomp on them a little bit and they should be good till winter.
All right, so we'll plan on the 26th,
Okay.
like maybe noon to 3 or something,
Gotcha.
same place. Okay, good,
I don't have class on Friday, so I'll be there.
excellent, excellent. And students will be there too?
Yeah, she said she has a class in the afternoon that has a double period, so she'll be able to bring those kids in the afternoon.
So we don't want too many,
Yeah,
because we'll have some patients from Riggs will come too.
Yeah.
We'll be there, so, or maybe we can go in shifts.
I
Yeah,
think,
shifts,
I
yeah.
think
go shifts.
she was thinking of a couple.
Okay,
That's what she was thinking.
and I
Yeah.
would think a couple of folks from there.
And
Oh.
I have to email her back anyway, so. I'm
And,
gonna-
and we'll see if the nursery school can do another poster, because
That was great.
they had fun. Okay, good.
It's
Awesome.
noon to 3.
Let's say noon to 3.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
That's awesome. And yeah, just make sure, we'll put the date in the calendar. I have my computer. I want to
Put the date in.
put it in the minutes there
Yeah,
just
I
to
will.
make sure that, because I'm definitely going to use that when I look back. Did we have anything else from the public before I?
And could you tell me your name?
Lionel Delevagne, 7 Whitley Drive.
Can you spell it?
Lionel is Lionel. It's a French train.
Thank you.
And Delevagne is D as in David, Elevingne.
Thank you.
And I'm from 7 Whitley Drive.
Okay.
I just hearing you and seeing how trying to get a good an understanding on how the way the town can works and how it can help us, and I know how also maybe I can help or I would want to know the best way. I'm witnessing right now, I mean, my background is as a photojournalist. I've covered environmental disasters the world over. For Mother Jones, for Indies Times, for Audubon, you name it,
Yeah.
New York Times. And now I'm the victim of, I don't have to travel too far. I see the desecration taking place. I saw it 9-10 years ago now with across the hill from Lily Pond, what I estimate to be 6 acres were cut down, bulldozed over. And when I told the town, it took the town over 6 months to make a difference and to stop that. So right now, I document, it's an instinct in me, before and after. And what we've got is exactly the same picture that was 10 years ago, even that the DEP, I suppose, has requested, Concom has requested the person to replant. But
Not yet.
from my window,
That hasn't happened yet.
it's there.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah, the trees are there, but it's more an exercise in bonsai than anything else.
yeah.
I'm quoting one of the best selectmen in town here who witnessed it himself. It is a very sad situation. It makes my blood boils. And it's happening right now next door again. And it's going to happen again down the street if we don't do something about it. So how can I help it? How can you help us?
So
How can we help each other?
It's on the agenda tomorrow night for the Conservation Commission. I did drive by, saw it. I agree with you.
It's
So the question is whether it's big enough whether the area that was cut is 10,000 square feet, has to be 10,000 square feet for us to act, or it has to be close enough to Lily Pond. So I'm asking for a site visit so we can go out and
It's
look.
right on Lily Pond. It's right on Lily Pond.
Do you think it's 200 feet?
I think they're cutting away the front.
It's,
Because it has to be within our jurisdiction for us to take action.
So
We're trying.
that
We're trying.
science will say that, I mean, the measuring it will,
Yeah.
but what I can tell you is that migration of birds has been diminished.
Yeah.
Because I look for birds, this is my thing right now, photographing birds flying by, I love it. There are not as many this year, there may be different reasons, but I know that birds don't like noise. We've been under stress for 2 years now,
Yeah.
people and animals. So, I mean, what we've got is people moving from Boca Raton, Florida, or from some devastated lands already, coming in with no understanding of the ecosystem, not understanding that dead trees are providing life. I mean, we've got so it's terrible because the Berkshires, maybe the last strange.
So keep an eye on an opening on the Conservation Commission and come join us.
No, I want to look, I mean,
So come tomorrow night, because it is on the agenda, and if you know of something about to happen, tell us. Because it's.
In the past, I was respectful of my neighbor's privacy, so I did not necessarily step in, at the right time it is possible, and I don't want to be infringing on someone's.
But if you hear a chainsaw close to the pond, call us. Because, I'm not there, I don't see it, but if we can stop it.
Well, I did, and I started photographing a man who was cutting down trees that looked good. Well, now I am.
On that property?
On that property. And so the man came reaching up to me saying, "What are you doing?" And I said, "Well, plus I'm in charge of the road there, so I have vested interest in, I'm a volunteer." So, but it was nasty enough. He felt threatened, of course. I was witnessing something that may not have been right.
Right.
And now I have lights shining at our property. We have dinner, and we've got probably military grade, safety lights looking at us. And
That's also against the lighting. We're going to be able to.
I'm paying for so what can I do for the town? What can the town do for me? I'm definitely, I love trees, so. Tomorrow. Sheep farm is wonderful. Well, this is great. But now we got to be careful. For instance, the property across Lily Pond pretended to have a horse farm at some point. It lasted a week. So there was a barn that was, so first everything was bulldozed, then a barn was built. Now the barn is a nice house, from what I figure, maybe an Airbnb in the future.
We did, just so you know, we did stop that from getting worse.
Okay, thank you.
Well, and I think, I'm glad you came tonight too, because obviously we are focused on the forest and the public lands, but we have our local ComCom-nologist on our board. So, obviously tomorrow, I'm assuming it's on the agenda.
It's on the agenda.
Okay,
So that would be the place to really hunker home and
See what we can do.
see what you can do in photos.
I want to have a site visit out there, so.
Yeah.
We can't just walk the property, but if we tell them we're coming and.
Yeah.
do something.
Just don't mention my name.
No, you're being recorded.
Well, yeah, it's too late.
Because they're never going to know the guy with the French accent.
You had enough ideas that I can,
But if there's anything else with the forest or anything else around your property, in the future?
No, it's all about education. And so when I was interested in planting trees here and there to protect us from it all, and I went to the Botanical Society. They were not able to help. But it would be so important to have education at some good level of things. The people at the botanical just had a certificate they'd gotten, I don't know how many weeks of training they had, but they were not appropriate to the questions being raised. How do we do native plants and how can they grow fast? And the wallop of what is possible. So education is key.
Yeah.
And if we can help it.
That's good to know.
You're working hard, so.
Thank you for coming.
The farmer's market, I mean, all your initiatives are just fantastic. You know, for a community that didn't exist 2 years ago, you guys are on like, you know, all your cylinders are firing.
No, it's not.
We try.
I mean, Northampton did so well. I've seen towns, I mean, being reborn with farmer's market. I mean, it brings people in, it fosters the heart of the.
That's what I'm hoping.
I mean, it's genuine, supporting farming. And not what the botanical, they were selling things that were manufactured in a fake balsamic thing and so on. No, we need to
Right here.
run ourselves with our own farming, agriculture. Not,
Right. Thank you for coming and
Thank you.
we'll
We
stay in
tomorrow.
Yeah.
It's 7 o'clock in this building.
I'll be there, yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
Oh, follow. Thanks.
Thank you, yes. All right.
Adjourn that, make a motion. Make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
You are right.
Second. Oh, wait, before we do that, next meeting, date,
Can I use your
yep. I'm looking at the 5th. February 5th.
phone?
All right. Now I'll second, make a motion to end the meeting. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good one.